Okay, live here on YouTube. Um, the True Church of the Firstborn. We live. My brother Amayan. We're here in the Shabbat class. About to do this class. Did Abraham marry his biological sister? No, he didn't. And we're going to the Bible, book of Jasher, and bring out this information on Abraham according to the scriptures. Okay, so before I begin, I always give all praises, and I do mean all praises, to the Most High, Yahweh. His name in the Hebrew, which means I am, He is what He calls us to be. And we pay homage to His first begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahushua, Christ Jesus in English, which means anointed salvation, and to all of our righteous brothers, spiritual angels, guiding and protecting us. And as our brother Jude pushed it in his letter for us to contend for the faith that was once delivered to the saints. So, again, I'm going to go in here and show that Abraham did not marry his biological sister. Starting off in the book of Genesis, chapter 26, and verse 5. So, who has Genesis chapter 26 and verse 5?
I'll take it. Genesis chapter 26 and verse 5.
Yes, to talk a little louder, so this to think and pick you up.
Okay.
Can anybody go on YouTube on their phone and see if we live? And can they hear it? So we can see to make sure. Yeah, so we can confirm that you're coming in clear. I think I am, but maybe if you're too far, just see can they hear you. Um, you can do that. All right. So the brother is checking through his phone on YouTube.
Well, that book of Jasher, did that have to be accurate? What you read? Because I was book of Jasher.
Yeah, I mean it has some mistakes in it, of course, like every other copy will have mistakes in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it does have some truth in it as well. So we're dealing with the portion to help harmonize our Bible. Yeah, so we don't have no original nothing. We all have copies of copies of copies. So that's your phone. Can you say something?
Yes. Do you hear me?
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. All right. So we're gonna go into this class now. Did Abraham marry his biological sister? Of course, the answer is an emphatic no.
No.
Okay. Who has Genesis chapter uh, 26, verse 5?
I'll take it. Genesis chapter 26, verse 5. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments and statutes, and my law.
So clearly, the Most High says here that Abraham kept his Torah, kept his laws, kept his commandments, obeyed his voice, kept his statutes here. This is from the Most High himself saying this. So clearly, if Abraham did that, how was it that he actually married his biological sister, which is against the Most High's law? God himself is saying that he kept his law, he didn't break it. Okay? So he couldn't have married his biological sister if the Most High is saying that he kept his law. Okay? We need to go get the law in this in two places now. Can we get Leviticus chapter 20, verse 11 and 12? Leviticus, the 20th chapter, we can get verse 11 and verse 12. Going in here to prove that Abraham did not marry his biological sister. That didn't happen. We're going to get some clarity who she actually is. Whose father is she? Is she really Terah's daughter? Is she really Abraham's biological sister? Get some clarity on that. We come in the book of Leviticus chapter, what did I say? Leviticus chapter 20, verse 17, right? Is that what I said? Leviticus chapter 20 and get verse 17.
Leviticus chapter 20, verse 17. And if a man shall take his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, and see her nakedness, and she sees his nakedness, it is a wicked thing.
So clearly, if Abraham actually did that, married his biological sister, it would be a wicked thing that he did. Go ahead.
And they shall be cut off in the sight of their people.
They shall be cut off. Abraham and Sarah was not cut off. They were supposed to be cut off according to the laws of God. Go ahead.
He hath uncovered his sister's nakedness. He shall bear his iniquity.
Right. His sinning going to be upon him. He shall bear his iniquity. That's what happened if Abraham actually married his biological sister. He should be put to death. Him and Sarah is supposed to be put to death according to that verse, clearly. Right? Let's get one more. Deuteronomy 27, verse 22. So we're reading the law against you marrying your sister. Because some believe that Abraham married his biological sister, which he didn't.
Deuteronomy, which one?
Deuteronomy chapter 27, verse 22. We're going to read next. We're reading the law on someone dealing with a biological sister. So in Leviticus, we just read if a man see the nakedness of the daughter of his father or the daughter of his mother, either one. Because some people try to say, well, they ain't got the same father. Scriptures don't even matter. Either one, you gonna get it. So who got Deuteronomy chapter 27, verse 22.
Deuteronomy 27, verse 22. Cursed be he that lie with his sister, the daughter of his father, or the daughter of his mother. And all the people shall say, Amen.
See that? Cursed. You have a curse upon you. The daughter of your father or the daughter of your mother. And all the people shall say, Amen. So be it. Be a curse upon you. So did Abraham do this? Did Abraham
Not
marry
at
his
all.
biological sister? Because he's gonna have a curse upon him. And we supposed to all be like, yeah, Abraham, you cursed, brother. Amen. Amen to that. You off, bro. Clearly Abraham couldn't have done that. The Most High said he kept his law. How was it? So now let's read where Abraham is talking about Sarai being his sister. Genesis chapter 20. Let's get Genesis chapter 20, verse 11 and 12. Genesis chapter 20, verse 11 and verse 12. I'm trying to find out what's going on here with this situation. Yeah, so Abraham couldn't have married his biological sister. You have a curse upon him, and according to the law, he's going to be put to death.
I'll take this. Genesis chapter 20, verse 11 and 12. And Abraham said, because I thought, surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will slay me for my wife's sake.
Okay, so this is the reason why he told them that she was his sister, because he thought these guys don't fear the Most High. They're gonna kill me for Sarah, my wife. Go ahead.
And yet, indeed, she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife.
Ooh, ah, he said clearly, indeed, she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. So it sounds like Abraham is making it clear that he married his biological sister. That's what it sounds like, clearly what he's saying. But why would the Most High say he kept my laws then? Obeyed my voice and my statutes? Why would he say that? Abraham is saying Getting something different. Puzzling. We got to come now to the book of Genesis. Let's get Genesis chapter 11. So we need to the question become, we need to find out um, whose father exactly is Sarah or Sarai, Abraham's wife. Whose father is he? We got to go to the lineage, because if Abraham is saying she's the father, she's the daughter of my father, we need to confirm that with the lineage. So let's get Genesis chapter 11 and let's start at verse 26. Genesis chapter 11, and we need to start at verse 26. As a matter of fact, let me start the screen share here. Bring some of this stuff up. Get it here in the share that. We're gonna get Genesis. Going back, we're gonna get 11. Come down, starting at verse 26, so people can follow along. Go ahead. Who has it?
Uh, Genesis chapter 11, verse 26. And Terah lived 70 years and begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran.
So clearly here, he's telling us here who Terah begot. He got Abram, Nahor. Don't say anything about Sarai here. Go ahead.
And these are the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran begot Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldees.
Right. So again, it mentions who he begot again. Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And he said Haran begot Lot. We know who Lot is. Lot begot Moabite, Ammonite. Yeah. But Haran died before his father died in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldeans. Go ahead.
And Abram and Nahor took them wives. And Abram's wife was Sarai. And the name of Nahor's wife Milcah, and the daughter of Haran, and the father of Milcah, and the father of Ishkar.
Right. So now when Abraham and Nahor took them wives, Abram's wives and Sarai, uh, and the name of Nahor's wife is Milcah. But Milcah, it says here, she's the daughter of Haran, their brother, that died. It says the father of Milcah again. That's who Haran is. He's the father of Milcah. It says, and the father of Ishka. Clearly, again here. So it's not in our Bible, it's not telling us definitively who the father of Sarai is here. And we in the lineage, this is the lineage that we're dealing with. It's not telling us who the father of Sarai is. It's leaving her father out in our text. All right, go ahead.
But Sarai was barren; she had no child.
Go ahead.
And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran his son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law. His his son's Abram's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldeans to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran and dwelt there.
Right. This Haran, this is Canaan. That it was leaving to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Canaan and they dwelt there. So they're in Canaan. They're in the part of Canaan. Go ahead.
And the days of Terah were 250 years, and Terah died in Haran.
205.
205 years.
Yeah, and Terah died. He died in, this is Canaan. This is not Haran. There's no land here. This is Canaan. He died in Canaan as they came into the land. Okay. So here we do not see any place here where it's telling us emphatically that Sarai or Sarah father is Terah, and this is the lineage here. It even tells us Terah's son Haran, he had Lot and tells his daughters too. Why is it leaving out who Sarah's father is? That's not here. That's why the Bible tells us for us to go look into the book of Jasher. It tells us certain things are written in the book of Jasher. Okay? This is what it tells us. Let me stop screen sharing on this right here. Okay? Bring back up where we was. Alright? I'm gonna come screen share and get Jasher. Let's get Jasher up here. Alright? I'm gonna go back to the top. See, in the beginning, it tells you the book of Jasher referred to in Joshua and Second Samuel. See, both these books reference Jasher, right? Faithfully translated 1840 from the original Hebrew into English, right? Because it was in Salt Lake City, tells you the publishers, blah blah blah. Then it gives you the quote from the verses in our Bible. Is it not written in the book of Jasher? This is from Joshua chapter 10, verse 13. And then behold, it is written in the book of Jasher, Second Samuel chapter 1, verse 18. In our Bibles here we have it. Can we get these in our Bible right where we can read them? We can show you that our Bible is letting us know that certain things are written in the book called Jasher. Now people argue that the one we have today is not the original. We have no original nothing. We have copies of copies of copies. So we want Joshua chapter 10, verse 13. So we want to get. And then someone gets Second Samuel chapter 1, verse 18.
I'll get second Samuel.
So we can have those, we can see that our Bible tells us about Jasher. Now the copy of Jasher that we have, of course, is it's not the original. There's going to be some mistakes in it, like there are mistakes in our so-called Old Testament and New Testament in English. That's why we do comparative text studies and we correct what's wrong. And what's not wrong, we leave and we bring it into what we have to bring clarity into what we don't have clarity on. Okay, so who has Joshua chapter 10, verse 13?
Joshua chapter 10, verse 13. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemy. Is not this written in the book of Joshua? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and haste not to go down about a whole day. And there was no day like that before it or after it, that the Lord hearkened unto the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel.
Okay, that's it. All right. So clearly, that's all I need to get on that. That clearly there, Joshua is letting us know that more is written about that event in the book of Jasher. That's what the writer there of Joshua is letting us know. So we can read the book of Jasher because our book is telling us there's certain things written in there that we need to go take a look at in the book of Jasher. Right? So who has Second Samuel chapter 1, verse 18?
I have second Samuel uh, chapter 1, verse 18. Also, they then teach the children of Judah and use the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher. The beauty of Israel is slain upon thy high places. How are the mighty fallen?
Okay, so there again, Second Samuel 1 and 18, letting us know that there's certain things written in the book of Jasher that was telling us that the children of Judah were supposed to learn to use the bow to go into war. This was something that was written way before That time there, that it was already talked about them, teach them to use the bow. And it's confirmed that this was already written down in the book of Jasher. Okay, so that's why we use the book of Jasher, because our Bible is telling us there's certain things written in there that we need to go read that we don't have in our text. So we need that to compare both to get the bigger picture of what's happening. Okay, so I'm going to come back now. I'm going to come Jasher, and I'm going to come to 12 to address what we're dealing with Abraham to find out who is Sarai's father. Jasher let us know. Our Bible don't tell us, but we are going to find out in Jasher. Jasher's going to tell us who the father of Abraham's wife really is. But we need a little bit of background. We can get to that point. We need some background here. This is after Abraham goes before the king and tells the king, which is who is Nimrod, stop worshiping these idols. Worship the God of heaven who made heaven and earth and all that. And this is their response to him. This is their response to what Abraham tells them that. We in the book of Jasher. You guys don't have the book of Jasher. I mean, Yabana has it up here on the show, but I'm going to read it. Yeah, that's not the Apocrypha. It's the book of Jasher. I'm going to read from here. It's going to come down. This is Jasher chapter 12, and I'm going to start at verse 1. You can follow along on the screen very easy. I'm sharing the screen. It says, and when the king heard the words of Abram, he ordered him to be put into prison. And Abram was 10 days in prison. And at the end of those days, the king ordered that all the king's princes and governors of different provinces and the sages should come before him, and they sat before him. And Abram was still in the house of confinement. And the king said to the princes and sages, have you heard what Abram, the son of Terah, has done to his father? Thus has he done to him, and I ordered him to be brought before me, and thus has he spoken. His heart did not misgive him, neither did he stir him in my presence. And behold, now he is confined in the prison. And therefore decide what judgment is due to this man who reviled the king, who spoke and did all the things that you heard. And they all answered the king, saying, the man who reviled the king should be hanged upon a tree. But having done all the things that he said, and having despised our God, he must therefore be burnt to death. For this is the law in this manner. So Abraham despised their little statues and stuff, so they want him to be burnt. That's their law. So I'm going to scroll down. Okay. Coming down to verse 6. If it pleaseth the king to do this, let him order his servant to kindle a fire both night and day in thy brick furnace, and then we will cast this man into it. And the king did so, and he commanded his servants that they should prepare a fire for 3 days and 3 nights in the king's furnace, that is in Casdim. And the king ordered them to take Abram from prison and bring him out to be burnt. And all the king's servants, princes, lords, governors, and judges, and all the inhabitants of the land, about 900,000 men, stood opposite the furnace to see Abram. And all the women and little ones crowded upon the roofs and towers to see what was doing with Abram. And they all stood together at a distance, and there was not a man left that did not come on that day to behold the scene. And when Abram was come, the conjurers of the king and sages saw Abram, and they cried out to the king, saying, O sovereign Lord, surely this is the man whom we know to have been the child, at whose birth the great stars swallowed the 4 stars, which we declared to the king now 50 years since. So now Abraham is 50 years old. When he was a baby just born, they had that prophecy about Abraham, or about Abram, what he would do. Verse 10. Now, and behold, now his father has also transgressed thy commands, and mocked thee by bringing thee another child, which thou didst kill. And when the king heard their words, he was exceedingly wroth, and he ordered Terah to be brought before him. So Terah did not bring Abraham, he brought another child. And the king killed him because he thought he was going to, child going to take him down. And the king said, Hast thou heard what the conjurers have spoken? Now tell me truly, how didst thou? And if thou shalt speak truth, thou shalt be acquitted. And seeing that the king's anger was so much kindled, Terah said to the king, My lord and king, thou hast heard the truth, and what the sages have spoken is right. And the king said, How couldst thou do this thing and transgress my orders, and to give me a child that thou didst not beget, and to take value of him? And Terah answered the king, Because my tender feelings were excited for my son at that time, and I took a son of my handmaid, and I brought him to the king. And the king said, Who advised thee to this? Tell me, do not hide aught from me, and then thou shalt not die. And Terah was greatly terrified in the king's presence. And he said to the king, It was Haran, my eldest son, who advised me to this. And Haran was in those days that Abram was born 2 and 30 years old. So Haran, the eldest son, was 32 years old. Abraham was born. Okay, so Terah is up here saying that Haran told him to do that. So we're going to find out what happened. But Haran did not advise his father to anything. For Terah said this to the king in order to deliver his soul from the king, for he feared greatly. And the king said to Terah, Haran thy son, who advised thee this, shall die through fire with Abram. For the sentence of death is upon him for having rebelled against the king's desire in doing this thing. And Haran at that time uh, felt inclined to follow the ways of Abraham, but he kept it within himself. So he's going to follow the ways of Abraham, meaning the Most High God, but he didn't. But now Terah just lied and put a death sentence on his eldest son Terah. And Haran said in his heart, Behold, now the king has seized Abram on account of these things which Abram did, and it shall come to pass that if Abram prevail over the king, I will follow him. But if the king prevail, I will go after the king. And when, so he's, whoever's win, he's going to follow. And when Terah had spoken this to the king concerning Haran his son, the king ordered Haran to be seized with Abram. And they brought them both, Abram and Haran his brother, to cast them into the fire. And all the inhabitants of the land, and the king's servants and princes, and all the women and little ones were there, standing that day over them. And the king's servant took Abram and his brother, and they stripped them of all their clothes, excepting their lower garments which were upon them. And they bound their hands and feet with linen cords. And the servants of the king lifted them up and cast them both into the furnace. And the Lord loved Abram, and he had compassion over him. And the Lord came down and delivered Abram from the fire, and he was not burnt. See that? What the Lord say when it comes to that death, I told you, he's going to intervene. The Lord's going to come intervene on that day, bro. When it's time for you to get out of here and you do what he's been saying, or someone trying to come take your life before, he's going to step in and stop it. Verse 25. But all the cords with which they bound him were burnt, while Abram remained and walked about in the fire. That goes back to what happened with in Daniel, the book of Daniel, with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were also cast into a fire, and nothing happened to them. For the Lord sent an angel to protect them, like he did with Abraham here. Verse 26. And Haran died when they had cast him into the fire, and he was burnt to ashes, for his heart was not perfect with the Lord. See why he died? He's straddling the fence. He had one foot in and one foot out. It doesn't work. That's why I tell them brothers, man, if you ain't all the way in, if you ain't gonna come all the way in, you might as well just go back out there. You're wasting your time because you're not gonna be protected. So what happened to him when he was cast into this fire, he died. Because the heart was not perfect with the Most High. You gotta get it right. Come all the way in. Continuing. And those men who cast him into the fire, the flame of the fire spread over them, and they were burnt, and 12 men of them died. And Abram walked in the midst of the fire 3 days and 3 nights. And all the servants of the king saw him walking in the fire. And they came and told the king, saying, Behold, we have seen Abram walking about in the midst of the fire, and even the lower garments which were upon him were not burnt, but the cord with which he was bound is burnt. And when the king heard their words, his heart fainted, and he would not believe them. So he sent other faithful princes to see this matter. And they went and saw it, and told it to the king. And the king rose to go and see it. And he saw Abram walking to and fro in the midst of the fire. And he saw Haran's body burnt. And the king wondered greatly. Scroll on down. Verse 29. And the king ordered Abram to be taken out from the fire. And his servants approached to take him out, and they could not, for the fire was round about, and the flame ascended toward them from the furnace. And the king's servants fled from it, and the king rebuked them, saying, Make haste and bring Abram out of the fire, that you should not die. And the servants of the king again approached to bring Abram out, and the flames came upon them and burnt their faces, so that 8 of them died. And when the king saw that his servants could not approach the fire, lest they should be burnt, the king called to Abram, O servant of the God who is in heaven, go forth from amidst the fire and come hither before me. And Abram hearkened to the voice of the king, and he went forth from the fire and came and stood before the king. All right. And when Abram came out, the king and all his servants saw Abram coming before the king with his lower garments upon him, for they were not burnt, but the cord with which he was bound was burnt. And the king said to Abram, How is it that thou hast not how is it that thou was not burned in the fire? And Abram said to the king, The God of heaven and earth, in whom I trust, and who has all in his power, he delivered me from the fire into which thou didst cast me. And Haran, the brother of Abram, was burnt to ashes. And they sought for his body, and they found it consumed. And Haran was 82 years old when he died in the fire of Kasdim. And the king, princes, and inhabitants of the land, seeing that Abram was delivered from the fire, came and bowed down to Abram. They seen that. They bowed down to Abraham. Verse 38. And Abram said to them, Do not bow down to me, but bow down to the God of the world who made you, and serve him, and go in his ways, for it is he who delivered me from out of this fire. And it is he who created the souls and spirits of all men, and formed man in his mother's womb, and brought him forth into the world. And it is he who will deliver those who trust in him from all pain. And this thing seemed very wonderful in the eyes of the king and princes, that Abram was saved from the fire, and that Haran was burnt. And the king gave Abram many presents, and he gave him his 2 head servants from the king's house. The name of one was Onai, and the name of the other was uh, Eleazar. We find out where Eleazar comes from in our Bible. was supposed to be Abraham's heir before he had Ishmael or Isaac. So we're going to read on to verse 44, and that's it. All right, up in that verse 44. Verse 40. And all the king's princes and servants gave Abram many gifts of silver and gold and pearl. And the king and his princes sent him away, and he went in peace. And Abram went forth from the king in peace, and many of the king's servants followed him, and about 300 men joined Abraham. So Abraham had some men with him, about 300 of them. We read about them in our Bible. And Abram returned on that day and went to his father's house, he and the men that followed him. And Abram served the Lord his God all the days of his life. And he walked in his ways and followed his law. You hear again, it's saying the same thing our Bible is saying. The most I said Abraham did. He served the God all the days of his life. He walked in his law. And from that day forward, Abram inclined the heart of the sons of men to serve the Lord. The last verse. At that time, Nahor and Abram took unto themselves wives, the daughter of their brother Haran. See, now we're getting clarity here. The wife of Nahor was Milcah. We read that in our Bible. And the name of Abraham's wife was Sarai. And Sarai, wife of Abram, was barren. We read that in our Bible the same thing as well. She had no offspring in those days. But here we see who her father is. Her father is Haran. See? At that time, Nahor and Abraham took unto themselves wives, the daughters of their brother Haran. So Sarai father is actually Haran and not Terah. So then why then is Abraham saying she is the daughter of my father? Why does he not say this is the daughter of my brother? Why is he saying that? We're going to get some clarity why he's mentioning that she's the daughter. Now remember, Terah lied and caused Haran to die. That's what he did. It was his fault that he lied on his son and caused his son to die. Right? We're gonna stop sharing that. We're gonna go back to our Bible. Can someone get me Leviticus chapter 22? I'll bring this up on the screen share as well. Need to get Leviticus 22. We need to get verse 13. One second, let me get there in the screen share. Leviticus 22, and we get verse 13. Let me highlight this so they can see it here. Okay, go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 22 and verse 13. But if the priest's daughter be a widow or divorced, and hath no child, and is returned unto her father's house, as in her youth, she shall eat of her father's meat, but there shall be no stranger eat thereof.
Okay, so I'll bring this verse to bring out. It talks about a priest's daughter. This would be for anybody's daughter. Okay, if they are a widow, that means their husband died, right? The widow. He says, or if she got divorced, right? And if she have no child, and she is returned unto her father's house, right? To a woman that when her father marries her to a man, if that man dies, she comes back to her father's house. If that man divorces her, she would come back to her father's house. If her father is alive, father's dead, she can't go back to her father's house because he's dead. She can't go there no more. Her father's wife, then she gonna go back to her father. So what she would normally do, she either would go if she have an older brother that's old enough to take care of her, she would fall there. But she usually would go try to be under, like to fall back under a man's tutelage. Happens. So now that uh, Haran has Sarai, right? He dies. Remember, Terah lies. He got cast in the fire with Abraham, but he got burnt up. So now Sarai's daughter, she's young. She didn't have no father. So she would fall naturally under who? She would fall naturally back under her father's father. She was falling to Terah. Terah would have to adopt her, right? We have this in our Bibles. We about to read it. He adopts Sarah, and that's how she becomes his daughter. But we just read it out the Bible, so we're not making stuff up. Can we get the book of Esther? Might be hard to find. We got to get the book of Esther, chapter 2. We need Esther chapter 2, verse 5 through 7. Esther is after Nehemiah. Ezra, you got First Chronicles, Second Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, then you have Esther. Okay? Esther chapter 2, we're going to get verse 5 through 7. Esther chapter 2, you're going to get verse 5 through verse 7. So we're coming here to show you that when a woman parents die, someone takes them over and adopt them, and they become their daughter, and they're referred to as someone's daughter. We see it here with Esther. It's going to be after Nehemiah. It's going to get Esther right before Job, I think it is. Right after Job. Right before Job, I mean. Esther chapter 2, you're going to get verse 5 through verse 7.
You there?
Yeah.
Okay. Esther chapter 2, verse 5. Now in Shuhan,
Shushan,
now in Shushan, the place there,
palace.
the palace there was a certain Jew whose name was
Mordecai.
Mordecai, the son of Jar, the son of Shimei,
Uh-huh.
the son of Kish, a Benjamin,
Okay, that is tribe. Go ahead.
who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with
Jeconiah.
Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away.
Right. Go ahead.
And he brought up Hadassah,
Hadassah.
that is Esther, his uncle's daughter,
That's his uncle's daughter. He brought up. Go ahead.
for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter.
See? When her mother and her father died, he adopted her. That was his uncle's daughter. He adopted her to be his daughter. So Esther would be considered Mordecai's daughter, right? But not biological. That ain't his biological daughter, but he adopted her. Just the same way because her Terah lied, right, and caused Haran to die, he would now, because he feels guilty, he would have to adopt his daughter, and that becomes his daughter through adoption. And this is why we come back here and we see why Abraham. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 20. Genesis chapter 20, and let's get verse 11 and 12 again. Genesis chapter 20, and get verse 11 and 12 again. Okay? To get more clarity on what is Abraham saying here now. Okay, we highlight it again.
Genesis chapter 20, verse 11 and 12.
Yes.
And Abraham said, because I thought surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will slay me for my wife's sake. and yet indeed she is my sister. She's the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife.
Okay, so now he's saying that she is the daughter of my father through adoption, right? But not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. Why am I saying that? Because God says Abraham kept his laws. God Himself says this. If Abraham did not, why is He saying that? Now, the last part of this that needs to be cleared up is this first part here in verse 12. He says, "And yet, indeed, she is my sister." How is he referencing her here as his sister? This is how brothers in the scriptures reference Israelite women, right? Isn't that what we call other women? Don't we call them sisters? They never lived to us biologically. Any women we meet in the truth in the different camps, they all reference them as sister, another man's wife. We refer to her as a sister, right? All referencing as sister. This is what we are told to reference the younger women as sister. I want to get this. Let's get this in the book in the Renewed Testament. Can we get First Timothy? Paul talks about this, how we should reference them. We can bring this full circle. Why Abram is calling her his sister. This is why we're told to reference them. We in the book of we get First Timothy. First Timothy chapter 5. First Timothy chapter 5. And let's start at verse 1. We get verse 1 and verse 2.
Okay. First Timothy chapter 5, verse 1.
Let everyone get there. So we're coming here to get the understanding what we should refer to younger women. Why Abraham is calling her a sister. But that's what we refer. Every woman in the nation of Israel will be referred to as a sister if that's not your wife.
First Timothy chapter 5,
Yes.
verse 22, right?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
First Timothy chapter 5, verse 1 and 2. Rebuke not an elder, but entreat him as a father, and the younger men as brothers.
See, the younger, we call every other brother, hey, what's up, bro? What's up, Ock? Brother. That's how we reference them, younger brothers. Okay? Go ahead.
The older women as mothers,
The older women, we refer to them as mothers. That's how they're supposed to be operating, taking care of things. Go ahead.
the younger as sisters,
See, the younger women as sisters. Go ahead.
with all purity.
With all purity. They're supposed to be carrying themselves as chaste. So we refer to the younger women as purity, as sisters. So we know that how that's the stage that Sarai was in. Okay, she was a younger woman. When Abraham married her, we referencing her his sister. That's how he's referencing her as. Okay, she would be his niece. That's why he's calling her a sister. So ending this out here, I want to be clear. The reason why I'm saying this because it starts from the Most High. The Most High says it right here in Genesis chapter 26, verse 5. Most High clearly says, "For because Abraham obeyed my voice, kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws." This is clear. How is he then could have married his sister if the Most High said he kept the law? Then he couldn't have kept the law if he was married to his sister. He didn't keep the law. He broke it. He married his sister. The law said he can't do that. But God is saying, no, he kept my law. So if God don't lie, we know God don't lie. He don't do that. So then how do we clarify Abraham's statement in the 20th chapter? That how that is the sister? I just went through it and showed you clearly that's his adopted father, a daughter from his brother Haran. And that's who he actually married. So we went through it and showed all of it there. Is there any questions on what was brought out? Stop screen sharing with that. Any questions? I'm gonna end this broadcast right here. That's the only lesson I want to bring out right here. I'm gonna post this up on the channel so anybody can go back over it again and post it up on my channel. So I'm gonna end the broadcast with that. Okay.